Region 10 Report with your host, Susanne Posel from OccupyCorporatism.com, where the alternative media gets their news. This show will expose the elite domination plan, disinfo agents, propaganda, corporate control, and the UN plan to strip the world of its freedom and the U.S. of its Constitution. This is the Region 10 Report with Susanne Posel, bringing you the real truth behind the news.
Thank you for joining us on the Region 10 Report. This is episode number 11. The Region 10 Report is broadcast on American Freedom Radio on our new time Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Central on AM stations all across the globe, as well as Prepper Podcast Network, UCY.TV, iTunes podcast downloads, just type in the Region 10 Report, Spreaker.com, Shoutcast, and Blog Talk Radio. You can also listen to all of our previous episodes at radio.occupycorporatism.com. New articles are posted daily on our website, occupycorporatism.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter, or you can sign up for our RSS feed and get all of the latest news. I post articles 6 days a week, so you will be informed. I'm your host, Susanne Posel, and my co-host, David Posel, is with me today. And we are going to talk about, there's so much going on right now. It was hard to narrow it down, but I found two topics. They are unrelated, and yet they are absolutely essential. So we're going to talk about gun control, and we're also going to talk about the different ways, the new and improved, amazing ways that our government and the technocrats nationally and internationally find new ways to suck all of our money out of our coffers, out of our back pocket. So let's start here with the gun control issue. Now, I go on Pete's show Monday through Saturday on American Freedom Radio and do the Bunker News Break. And if you were listening then, you heard me talk about Biden confirming yesterday on CNN News that Obama has executive orders. He's already got them written. They're just waiting for his auto signature. So they're trying to decide, and what they're doing is political posturing. This is just a show. This is just theater. They've got people coming in to speak to them at the White House about how they're going to take away our gun rights, our right to bear arms, our right to a militia, our right to defend ourselves from tyrannical governments that our forefathers hoped would not pop up, but here we are. The Arizona Gun Safety Coalition has showed up. The Brady campaign to end gun violence, campaigns to keep guns off of campuses, and a whole host of other people showed up, and including our favorite Mayor Bloomberg's Mayors Against Illegal Guns, to sit down with Biden and Attorney General Eric Holder to discuss how they're going to take away our guns. Now, like I said just a few minutes ago, they've already got the executive orders. They already know that they're going to do this. So the lobbyist for Michael Bloomberg, which is John Feinstein, is excited that regardless of what happens, whether or not it's through legislation or through executive order, that guns are going to be removed. Mayor Bloomberg has been fighting for this for a very long time, going all the way back to the Colorado shooting. And the ridiculous statements that he's made on air and on his website, these people are gun carriers themselves. Okay, well, let's not forget about this. These people have, most of them, like Feinstein, she has a concealed weapons permit. She's standing around a bunch of guys in suits that have guns in their pockets, and she's telling you that you need to give up your guns. Let's not forget about this point. The president, Biden, everybody in Congress, they're all surrounded by people who have guns in their pockets. And most of them have weapons permits to carry, concealed weapons permits, or registered gun owners. So, the problem here is that we've got idiots like New York Governor Andrew Cuomo coming out and saying that he's going to make the New York State the national model. And he wants gun confiscation. He wants Americans to, quote unquote, voluntarily sell their guns back to the state. But don't be fooled. If you don't sell your gun back to the state, they're just going to come in and take it, because he wants gun confiscation. He wants to make sure that you don't have your gun. And we'll get into Feinstein a little bit later in the broadcast, but she also is calling for a national database so that everybody knows in the government whether or not you have done anything wrong, that you are a registered gun owner. And you, along with what Mayor Bloomberg wants, the registered gun owners will then be in this national database so that they can make decisions on whether or not you keep your gun. Let's say, for argument's sake, folks, when you were in your, if you're older, when you were in your early 20s or at any point in your life, you went to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and you were prescribed with any antidepressant or any psychotropic or any or even not prescribed a drug. Maybe you were just diagnosed with some sort of depressive disorder. Well, then you are a mental health risk, and you are in a database, a national database, not only as a registered gun owner, but in a national database because at some point in your life you were diagnosed with a depressive disorder or some sort of mental disorder, and they want to make sure that you can't have your guns. Well, 5 out of 9 Americans right now are on some pharmaceutical for mental health issue, a psychotropic drug. It doesn't have to be Paxil. It doesn't have to be Prozac. It could just be something light and airy. But if you have received a prescription because of some sort of diagnosis in your past, whether it was something huge, like bipolar disorder, or maybe you were just a little bit down in the dumps and you went to your psychologist or your psychiatrist for a couple of weeks just to help you get back on your feet mentally. Now you are a mental health risk. And so you need to be put in a database as well as a registered gun owner in another database, and then they're going to hook these two up and make decisions. And everybody at some point in their life has or will be or are diagnosed with some sort of depressive disorder. It makes perfect sense. You're working a job that you hate. You're living in a place that you don't want to, or you just got foreclosed on. You're trying to make ends meet. You can't stay home with your kids. Maybe you just got a divorce. Maybe you just broke up with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Maybe you're just sick of Jimmy Kimmel on late night beating Dave Letterman. Whatever it is, this whole world is very depressive. It's created that way. We're little hamsters in wheels, running and spinning our wheels, trying to figure out if Photoshop pictures floating around the internet are proving whether or not Sandy Hook was a hoax. So, of course, we're upset and depressed. But this is all being used against us, along with all of these people going up to Capitol Hill and putting on a show and theater so that they can just take our guns. Now, Michael Bloomberg has been in direct contact with Vice President Joe Biden, helping him formulate all of these proposals that will be brought to Obama for the purpose of an executive order, for the purpose of amending any bills that will be submitted to Congress, suggestions on what to do, because in the end, they want to take the Second Amendment and render it useless. To scratch it off of the Constitution is too egregious. But to make it so that it's not applicable, that's something that is absolutely within their grasp, and that's what they're doing here. Because in the social meme, you've got Piers Morgan quoting 35 deaths in a country, in a city where they've outlawed guns so long ago that nobody even thinks about it anymore. And it's actually 45 deaths in 2011. Then he's quoting 11,000 people in the United States. But what he doesn't tell you is that any gun-related death is lumped in, whether it was justifiable homicide by the police, whether it was justifiable homicide by a victim, whether it was self-inflicted, whether it was deemed an accident. All of these gun-related incidents are lumped in together, and then you get this one giant number that looks really scary, and they use that against you when they're quoting statistics. And that's something that I found in my research. Statistics are great because you can make them say whatever you want. And because most of us don't do the research, and most of us trust other people to bring them information, they're able to take a statistic that is a culmination of so many different things and then spit out a number, and you go, oh my God, 11,000 deaths compared to 35, that is incredible. I totally agree with you, Piers Morgan. We need to get rid of these guns. Oh my God. But this is just part of and I hate to use the word psyop because we use it so often that it doesn't even mean anything anymore. But that is part of the propaganda. That is the job of the mainstream media, to take something that may not be true and cause you to think that it is because they said it is. Another thing that I want to bring up here, but it looks like I have a caller. I want to go ahead and take this call because I am so grateful when you guys call in. And so in the 401 area code, you are live on the Region 10 report. How are you? What's your name?
It's Ashley.
Hey, Ashley. Are you listening on your...
Yes, I'm listening on my phone.
Oh, I love you so much. Thank you. I'll put you back.
You're welcome.
That is incredible. She does that, folks. She listens to me and Pizza and Tilly on her phone at work, and I'm just very grateful for you guys. I want you guys to know that. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the people who go to my website on a daily basis and the people who listen to me on the radio, and I am absolutely very grateful that you give me this opportunity to speak to you. And thank you so much. So let's go back to gun control. Now, what I was saying, Bloomberg is in direct contact with Biden, and so he's in his ear telling him what he wants, and we've got the executive orders looming in the background. And what we're not, we've also got banks making decisions on whether or not people who have legitimate gun manufacturing corporations, whether or not they're allowed to do business in the United States. The owner of Spirit Arms, American Spirit Arms, was recently told that because all of a sudden he got a boom in his e-commerce and making a lot of transactions, a lot of larger transactions, because, ladies and gentlemen, people are buying guns like it's going out of style, because it kind of is. Since they're going to make the Second Amendment ineffectual, that's exactly what's happening. So people are running to their gun store and buying guns and buying high-capacity magazines because they want to make sure that their gun is worth something. So this gentleman, was told by Bank of America that they don't believe. They made this value judgment, and who the hell are they? They said, and I quote, "We believe you should not be selling guns and parts on the internet." Well, guess what? There's a lot of things that shouldn't be sold on the internet. And who the hell is Bank of America, who helped fund the Nazis? Who the hell are they to make a judgment call of whether or not somebody should be selling guns on the internet?
Responsible for a lot of the foreclosures as well. I mean, they don't really have many ethics. They're just trying to play the globalist game. Somebody up higher than them said, hey, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to do it for us. And they did. Exactly.
And up on my website, I wrote an article before Biden even came out and said that there were executive orders, because Eric Holder made that comment a couple of days earlier. But in this article, Obama may use executive order to mandate gun control in America. I posted a video of what our country will look like when we don't have guns. And it's back 2011, when this gentleman was murdered on the street because he didn't pay his bus fare. And the police, nobody did anything about it. The police wouldn't allow the onlookers to do anything about it. Claimed he had a gun, but no gun ever surfaced. Claimed that he was shooting at them, but there's no proof that he ever shot at them. And this video is exactly what would happen. You know, if you don't pay your bus fare, you get shot in the neck and then subsequently 5 other times, and then you lay on the ground bleeding to death. And then after you're dead, they justify it by saying that you allegedly had arrest warrants and had a gun and tried to shoot at them.
That's a hardcore video. You guys really should see that. If you can handle it, I promise you will be outraged. And you should be.
I was so angry, and I don't live in San Francisco, but these people are not, they should not be allowed to make these kind of judgments. But when the people are disarmed, we don't have a choice. If you're staring down the barrel of a gun, I don't care how brave you are, you don't have a choice. And that's exactly the situation that they want us to be in. I have another caller here that I want to go ahead and take. Caller, you are live on Region 10 Report. Hello, what's your name?
Tex.
Hey, Tex, how are you?
I'm good, Suzanne. How are you?
I am upset.
Me too. I'm so upset because my deal is he can do whatever he wants to. He can write all those executive orders, but I think they're going to throw him out, I hope. I hope the judges
I think people should
actually do the right thing.
Is.
Yeah. Well, if they do the right thing and throw him out, then we'd have to put up with that Putt Ted, whatever his name is.
Yeah, this is a long-standing, this goes back to 1963. You know, we've got the Communist Manifesto, but we've also got these 45 goals that they wanted to implement. And when I read them, when Pete Santilli brought that to my attention, I was freaked out because most of them have either occurred or in the midst of occurring. And Obama was a red diaper baby, you know. So I'm going to go to a break. Text, can you hold on?
I can.
Awesome. I'll talk to you on the other side. Everybody, please stay seated. We are talking about some serious stuff today.
Wadiya will remain a dictatorship. Oh, be quiet. Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group, and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests.
Are you tired of going to the same news websites and sharing stories with your friends only to find out later that it was a propaganda piece or something from a disinformation network? Have you been to OccupyCorporatism.com? Occupy Corporatism is one of the very few independent news sources that certifies their information and provides all of the source documents, so you can be sure that what you're reading is the real thing and not just an opinion piece by the controlled alternative and mainstream media. We offer 100% original articles and a troll-free atmosphere, so you can feel comfortable knowing that time you spend with us will be time well spent researching facts and avoiding trolls. Come by Occupy Corporatism 24 hours a day to get the latest news and the facts that other media outlets just refuse to cover. That's OccupyCorporatism.com. You can also visit radio.occupycorporatism.com to listen to all of our episodes of the Region 10 Report with Susanne Posel, the chief editor and investigative journalist of Occupy Corporatism. Don't forget to visit Occupy Corporatism on Facebook to leave your comments, suggest news stories, or leave us a news tip. We appreciate all of our loyal listeners and readers. We've reached over 2 million smart people just like you. So come by OccupyCorporatism.com and get the real truth behind the news. Leave the propaganda behind.
Fight the last freedom of imagination. nation, or drowning pop culture of the biggest nation with armies of idiots brandishing brand names of one corporation, or conflagration, the most holy train wreck of all human history. Tell me how you feel.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back with us. This is the Region 10 report, and I am on the phone with Tex. Tex, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Oh, man. So what made you so angry that you had to call?
Well, I just wanted to really plug Occupy Corporatism. That's the place I go every day. Every morning when I get up, I get my cup of tea and I sit down and read what's new and and then go through and make sure I haven't missed anything else, because there's so much stuff on there. You guys just blow me away. But I'm really ticked because I'm a veteran. I'm an ex-Marine.
Semper Fi. I'm an Air Force cadet.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I was in Vietnam, so I'm an older guy. And I'm just really ticked that they would even think that anybody, especially anybody from Texas, is going to give up their guns to them. So if they think that, they can think that, but let them bring it on. Exactly.
We need to have the option. The Second Amendment says that militias need to be armed and the people need to be armed. And obviously with Barry Soetoro, or whatever the hell his name is, Barack Obama, in office, we're under threat.
Yep.
So I totally agree with you.
Let's hope they show the imposter for what he is and do away with him, and then we'll have to rearrange the rest of the government too. So let's keep at it. I used to be so active calling my congressmen and senators that every time I call now, it just goes straight to voicemail.
Well,
I don't even get to talk to anybody.
I think people should start on our local levels, Tex. We should call our council members and start at the local level and let them lobby for us to the higher ups, because the higher ups just aren't listening to us. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like it. Okay, I'll have to try that. See if they put me on voicemail. And then I'm going to go down and knock on their door is what I'm going to do. That's right. Let's have a sit-in like they did in the 60s. There you go. That sounds good. Well, you just keep up the good work, and I just wanted to encourage you and tell everybody to make sure and listen in to the Region 10 report and the Pete Santilli show, and just, it's all good. Awesome. Thank you so much for calling. Call back anytime you want. Okay, I will. See you later. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. That was awesome, folks. That is Tex, and he's right about the Pete Santilli show. Pete's doing some really good stuff over there, and I wouldn't be with Pete if it wasn't for what he's doing. I absolutely believe in him, and I've known him for a year now, and he's a really awesome guy. And Susanne Posel is the best co-host he could have possibly chosen. She's amazing, and that's why I have her on the show. I've had her twice because she knows a lot of things. She's really smart. She's one of those rare people that was actually raised by people who were awake, and she was warned from birth of what to expect. And unfortunately, she's seen a lot of things that her parents warned about actually coming to fruition.
Yeah, and they're all really great researchers. I mean, we spend hours and hours and hours making sure that what we bring you guys is absolutely true, and it's been a great ride. Right.
So let's get back to Senator Dianne Feinstein. Now, she doesn't just want restrictions on modifications for firearms available to us and classifying specific modifications as illegal and restricting the acquisition of rocket launchers. Who in the hell has a who has a rocket launcher in their backyard? I have no idea. But she also wants a biometric scan and fingerprinting system for people who register guns. Isn't this amazing?
Well, didn't you cover just a little while ago that they were even going to be taking names of people who are buying ammunition and things like that, even on the retail level?
Yes, that's one of the things that they want to do. They want to make sure that they have all the identification for people who are just buying ammunition. And it doesn't matter what type of ammunition you're purchasing. Meanwhile, the DHS is buying, more than 1.8 billion rounds of hollow point bullets for every federal agency you can imagine. And then we have to hand over our license and give them our blood and our fingerprints and everything else just to buy a box of, a round of something that isn't even intended to hurt anyone.
Right, yeah. And of course we pay for both sides of it, and the whole system just keeps on going.
Right. Now I want to remind people that Obama said, back when he was running for office for the first time, he made a comment that he was not going to take our guns. He was speaking in Virginia, and he said, and I quote, back in 2008, "When you all go home and you're talking to your buddies and you say, he wants to take my gun. Well, you heard it here. I'm on television. Everyone knows it. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in people's lawful right to bear arms. I will not take your shotgun. I will not take away your rifle. I will not take away your handgun." If that doesn't perk up your ears to how blatantly we're lied to on a regular basis by this person who doesn't even go by his real name, I don't know what doesn't. And that video clip is in my article here. Obama may use executive orders to mandate gun control in America. And it's not just our federal government. Cities all across the country are telling the citizens that they're going to take away their guns on a local level. And that's why I was telling Tex, the federal government is obviously not listening to us. And the propaganda that's going on in the mainstream is just for show. We just saw recently Alex Jones on Piers Morgan. And I'm not going to talk about this extensively. I wrote an article, Alex Jones and Piers Morgan plays into communist goals outlined in 1963. And in 1963, Albert Herlong, House Representative from Florida, introduced 45 goals that are communist goals into our congressional, into Congress, into the congressional record under Appendix A34 through A35. And you can go and I've linked it up in my website. It's based on the book The Naked Communist. And what we saw, in my opinion, with Alex Jones was absolute theater. It didn't have to go that way. In fact, I was just watching recently an older interview with Jesse Ventura and Piers Morgan just last night. And I was impressed at how Jesse Ventura held his own. He was not deterred. He spoke to the audience. He made his points. He brought up the fact that automobiles are dangerous, and why are we driving? Well, automobiles are not covered by the Constitution. That's why they're not trying to take our cars away. He brought up statistics, and Piers Morgan brought up his infamous 35 deaths in 2011 in Britain, and Jesse Ventura blew that out of the water. And he didn't throw a fit. He didn't get in his face. He didn't scream. He didn't cause a scene. And he even appealed to the audience and asked them, before Piers Morgan tried to cut him off, how many people think that I made sensible points? And everyone clapped. And only one person disagreed with him in the audience. And that's because when you are talking about something that is so heated, and we're coming off of this emotional roller coaster of children dying, of going to a movie theater and not knowing whether or not you're going to get shot at, or going to a mall, or just, being in your house and having an intruder come in. And thank God that this mother protected her two daughters and was a registered gun owner, because otherwise God only knows what would have happened to the woman and her two daughters. But we need to have the ability to choose. When there is a person who is a registered gun owner and has a concealed weapons permit, and they have their weapon with them when they go out in public, we see time and time again in the news that the situation is deterred. That there was an older gentleman at a convenience store that took down a gentleman who was trying to rob with his gun. And thank God that this older gentleman had the gun with him. They called him Grambo.
And that same story follows time and time and time and time again, and that is really ultimately the point. That we do need to allow people to have the Second Amendment. We need to allow people to have concealed weapons. And, I'm sure that everybody out there, if you're getting shot at, you're going to pray to God that somebody out there is going to help you out. And there's no other way to do it. If we're all disarmed people, we're just sitting ducks, and they know that. That's exactly what they're doing. And that's, that's kind of the story of this shooting that happened in San Francisco as well. I mean, they shot the guy in the neck and just let him bleed to death. That's what they're looking for. They have a militarized system. They don't care about us, and this is their plan.
Right, and that's why it's so important for us to band together on this. Whether you own a gun or not, whether you agree with gun control or not, that's not the issue. The issue is when you're faced with the situation, you need to be able to protect yourself. And the people who are running our government are not protecting us. And so if they take that away from us, if we allow that to happen, then we are sitting ducks, just like Dave said. I've got another caller on the line, area code 260. Hello, caller. How are you?
Hello.
Hello, you're on the Region 10 report. Who am I talking to?
This is Dan.
Hey, Dan. What's up?
Hey, I was looking on my Facebook, and there's a guy, I don't know if you know of him, the Nut and Fancy Project.
No, I don't. Tell me about it.
Nut and Fancy, he reviews guns and that.
Oh, is that the...
Well, anyways, I noticed he's got a thing on the 19th for everybody to go to their capitals, or whatever state they're in. On the 19th, show up at your capital to protest this gun stuff.
That's wonderful. Is it the 19th of this month?
19th of this month, yeah. I just wanted to pass that along. I ain't too swift with the computers to figure out how to post a thing on your stuff to show you, so I called you up, but...
Oh, that's awesome. Tell people what this person's Facebook page is so we can all go visit.
It's Nothing Fancy, it's called, or TNP, I believe. I'm kind of new to running into him, but I noticed he reviews a lot of weapons and that.
Okay. Okay, that's a good thing.
Name, but he's got a video on there right now. I posted it onto my Facebook and trying to spread the word, but the best I can. But
that's wonderful. Thank you so much for calling in and telling me about that. Everybody, that's a great, I think that's where we need to go. I mean, I don't know if you agree or not.
Do, something peaceful, just everybody show up at their capitals and let them know, what's up. And the more numbers, the better.
Exactly, yeah, because the federal government, like I said, is not listening to us. So our state representatives and our local representatives, I think, is where we need to start focusing our attention.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much for calling.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. This is where we need to go. I'm saying this over and over again, but this is where we need to go. We need to appeal to our local level. Just like you do with Agenda 21, you show up at your council meeting and you start fighting ICLEI on that level. This is what we need to do. Because the guys who are up on Capitol Hill, they are so bought off they can't even see straight. They've got money from lobbyists coming out of their pockets. And with Mayor Bloomberg talk directly in the ear of Joe Biden, we don't have a choice. So we have to take control as best we can by talking to the people that we can get a hold of and that we can talk to. So we're going to head up on a break very shortly, but I just want to switch gears because we can talk about gun control all day. But I just want to switch gears. For the remainder of the show, I want to discuss things that are going on in our economy and different ways that they're trying to take our money out of our pockets and render us to the point where we are asking for a socialist government, asking for communism, because we can't afford to take care of ourselves. And one of the ways that they're doing it is this little scheme that I found, the $1 trillion platinum coin scheme. Now, this is the U.S. Congress. They're thinking about minting a $1 trillion platinum coin with the authorization of Timothy Geithner. And Timothy Geithner has legal authorization to do this under Title 31 of the USC Code, Section 5122, where the U.S. Treasury would give platinum coin any number or any worth. So Geithner can mint a coin and say it's worth whatever he wants, like $1 trillion, and then they want to deposit that directly into the Federal Reserve Bank. We're not going to see any of this. We may see a couple of pictures of what this coin looks like, but it's not like it's going to be in circulation. It's not like it's going to be the new quarter or the new dime. This is going straight into the coffers of the central bank. This is moving a precious metal from one hand into another that's worth quite a bit of money. And I know, Dave, you were looking at statistics on how much this money is worth. With platinum. Platinum's been going up steadily since the mortgage crisis, right?
Well, yeah, the mortgage crisis, it basically lost, at least half of its value. And it's slowly been creeping up. Since about 2010, it's kind of stabilized at where it is now. It's about $1,600. I see today it went up a reasonable amount. But, it doesn't really reflect as well as the gold market on an average. But if you look at this, there's no way that what they're giving you is worth what they're saying it is, and so it's just another fiat system like we had before.
Right. And when we come back from this break, guys, we're going to break this down for you even further. Please stay seated. We're trying to jam in as much information as possible. Don't go away.
Hi, this is David Posel. This week's featured artist is Blue X Baxter, who has just released a 720-page book called The Measure of Poetry that I've been reading lately. I highly suggest it. He's also got an album to go along with that. And his new band is called Blackjack X and the Navy. Definitely want to go see them. They're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This week we're going to be playing song number 330 called The Dampada. This is an excellent song. You can go to his website, bluexbaxter.com, and if you visit the link on the top corner that says Store to listen to all of his different albums and buy the book as well as buy the new album by Blackjack X and the Navy. So this song is number 330, The Dampada, comes off of When Quantum Mechanics Met Religion.
Start to feel strange, start to feel envy, start to feel things are better off alone. Look at these trains, look at these diamonds. Look at the look-alike man eating look-alike gems off the road. Starting to twitch, all good for nothing. Where the wall's laying bare, I sit there and stare at the wall. Never mind ghosts coasting the canyon. It was a fork in the road, I ate it, it showed me the way. We've been heaved 10,000 leaves for 40 days. The tides have changed and changed the ball to not escape. The lake that breaks, yeah, escalates. The beer of war, the stun of guns, the tasers fire, the books are burned, the mass is cheer, the church is barred, bird is flown, the tomb is shut, be gone. So what if in now we were all damned? What What if the verses will lie to bluff the black tie to hold on? What if these crates of vegetables rotted would society's face remain brazen and placed above all? Look at these depths. How about stingers? What if the bees wouldn't fly and beasts wouldn't cook in the pie? Now that we are talking, won't you watch the mask get down? Isn't it threatening, baby, that eerie silent sound? Isn't it threatening, baby, that eerie silent sound? What if the craters still billowed and bellowed with smoke? Vats of acid busking the change from below. And if we saw what we see and are what we be, we'd get sick. If you felt my love, why didn't you say so? You know I could have asked up upon your behalf to get stoned. Well, we're licking the locks, rolling in the deep. If the males are all chained, who left to blame for the sin? Fight the last freedom of imagination, or drowning pop culture of the biggest nation with armies of idiots brandishing brand names of one corporation, or conflagration, the most holy train wreck of all human history. Tell me how you feel.
Hello everybody, thank you for coming back with us. This is the Region 10 report, and we had switched gears. We're talking about the scheme, the $1 trillion platinum coin that they're using to go ahead and move basically a precious metal into the coffers of the Federal Reserve. And they say that it's going to pay off our national debt. Well, how is it going to do that? You can just, so I can just print a coin? Oh, wait a minute, that's called counterfeit. I'm not Bernanke. But let's say I'm Bernanke for a second. So I can just print something, just like I do all the fiat, and just say that it's worth something, if I'm Timothy Geithner, and then just hand it over to Ben Bernanke and say, hey, it's worth $1 trillion, we owe $16+ trillion, so I'll give you 16 of these coins. You've got platinum. We should call this deal square, right? This is ridiculous. And Canada is moving toward the cashless society here with new plastic fiat, and that's up on my website, Occupy Corporatism. Now, shockingly, 56% of over 1,500 Canadians that were polled said that they want a cashless society. This new fiat is polymer-based. It's just like a regular bill, but it's not made of paper. It's made of plastic. So it's imbued with all of the digital technology in order to track it the same way your credit card is or your photo ID is. And this is the incremental movement toward a currency that we're not going to see. You know, it'll be numbers on a screen. First, they want to introduce it slowly. A lot of people don't want to have the RFID chip in their body. And in the military, they're being forced to take it. They don't have a choice. If you're in the military, when they introduce it, you have to take the chip. And a lot of people think that it's cool and it's trendy. But at the same time, for everybody, you know, who's paying attention to media and alternative media, we realize that being chipped in our body is offensive, and it should be. I don't want my physical body being tracked everywhere I go, and I certainly don't want to be tracked through my money. That's why I pay only in cash. And I know that I'm considered a terrorist by the FBI, but I don't care. I'm going to pay for my, not that I go to Starbucks because they like to use crushed bugs to flavor their coffee, and I think that's disgusting. But if I were to go to Starbucks, I would pay in cash. Now, in Canada, the BA International that prints all of their fiat money, their paper money, has stopped doing that. And they're pushing the durability of this plastic-based fiat currency. Now, a bank teller who works in Canada at the Bank of Canada claimed that there were numerous cases of these new polymer bills melting and showing that they are not indestructible. And actually, I have a picture of the melted bills up on my website because the Bank of Canada was saying that this is the best thing that we can do. We should sink all this money into creating these so that we have a better way of countering fiat, counterfeit. And anyway, you know, this is a good deal, but these bills are not indestructible. And what makes me so upset is that when we stop paying attention to what the technocrats are doing because we're running circles trying to figure out how they pull off these false flags, we're not paying attention to the bigwigs, the Bank of International Settlements. Now, I wrote an article that has been getting a little, you know, it's gaining ground here, but it's really one of those diamond in the rough articles. The Bank of International Settlements forcing central banks to liquidate. This is huge. Now, I started digging into the $8.5 billion settlement that J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, SunTrust, U.S. Bank, you name them, they all got together, and the federal government and with the Office of the Comptroller of Currency and the Federal Reserve Bank got together and decided that they were going to just put a number to all the people who had been screwed over by the mortgage-backed securities fraud. So they agreed to pay $8.5 billion. And they decided that each person who was affected between 2009 and 2010 would receive $2,237. So that's how much you're worth to the Federal Reserve and the federal government for putting you through something that didn't have to happen. You didn't have to lose your house. Your house was worth, God knows how much, $100,000 or more, and they think that you just deserve $2,000. In order to pay you off and get you to shut up and quit complaining about the fact that you are homeless because of this and you had to go move in with your family, or God forbid you had to move into a tent city. But what is really going on behind all of this is the Bank of International Settlements has told all of the central bankers that they have to start liquidating. Now that's huge, folks. The Bank of International Settlements makes decisions for the central bankers. That's where the central bankers have their bank accounts. So when they told by 2019 the central bankers have to abide by this liquidation process and liquidate all of their assets, including bonds, mortgages, loans, and stock shares, that is serious, folks. That's why J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon and all the people that we hate, Goldman Sachs gang, that's why they're doing this. Because they're getting orders from their bosses, who are the Bernankes and the Mark Carneys of the world, and they're being told that they have to liquidate all of their assets because the Bank of International Settlements is liquidating. That's why we're having all of this destruction of fiat across the globe, because they're trying to get rid of the fiat. And the argument all the time, and I say this over and over again, well, why are they trying to destroy their own thing? You know, they're in the business of making money. Why would they be destroying it? Because, folks, the money doesn't matter to the guy who makes the money. And the Bank of International Settlements decides, they're the big guys who decide all of the economic situations that we have all across the globe. So if they're telling the central bankers, if they're telling the Bernankes of the world, hey, you have to liquidate all of this, everything, the bonds, the mortgages, the loans, the stock shares, all of it, liquidate, and you have till 2019 to do so. That's why we're seeing a movement towards sovereign debt. And for folks who don't remember, sovereign debt is when you hand over the physical land. That's why Bernanke's buying the mortgage-backed securities. They're trading in the fiat for the physical land, for the physical property, so that when we go toward this cashless society, when everything is digital, they don't have to worry about anything floating around out there. They own the land. They own every continent. They own everything, including the oceans. Don't forget about the Lost Treaty. I've got tons of articles on my website about that. But when they own everything physically, then they don't have to worry about the fiat anymore. Then they can introduce any type of trading system that they want, and you are going to abide by it because you have no choice. You and I, on ground level, we need it. It's a necessity. You can't go to the grocery store and fill up your cart and say, you know, I'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's not going to fly. So since we need to trade these fiat notes, they're putting us in a situation where we have to abide by what they're doing.
Yeah, and let's not forget, all of the billionaires of the world, you know, George Soros and just about everybody else, they've completely gotten out of the stock markets and the banks. They've dropped every single stock they've got in the banks. Why? Because they're moving to gold. They're not stupid. We're just a little bit slow.
Right. I say this all the time. The flip side of that coin is that the precious metals markets are manipulated by the banks. And if you want to put your money into something that's solid, I always say, because I'm not promoting any coins or any precious metals, so I don't have to say it. I can be honest with you and say that J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs are manipulating the markets for precious metals. So buy non-GMO seeds. Invest in educating yourself so that you don't have to hire someone to go and fix your car or fix your house, that you can do it yourself. Beef up your tools at home. Think about people who are looking at alternative forms of energy, because when they shut down the grid, you can still be the only guy with the lights on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can help other people around you, and you know, for God's sake, go get yourself a gun.
Absolutely. Well, we still can. Absolutely get yourself a gun. Because like I said a couple of broadcasts ago, the fiat, the dollar bubble that is being created is being imploded by the big guys, by the Bank of International Settlements. They are controlling what's happening all over the world with fiat. And this is very, very serious, because I'm a big picture person. You know, I don't care about the little things that are going on so much as I want to know how to treat cancer. I'm not worried about treating cancer as if it's the flu. So I want to know exactly what's going on, and I know that you do too. You want to know exactly what's going on so that you can protect yourself and you know how to defend yourself. And if it's being able to buy a semi-automatic handgun so that you don't have to worry about a slingshot trying to keep an intruder away from raping and killing you and your children, or getting to your bag of Cheetos because it's the only thing you have left to eat. But it's also the way in which we are able to trade for our goods and services, which is the fiat system that we are working under. And we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Of course, you know, if you got a community together a small town and they just decided not to trade the fiat anymore, then they could probably figure out a way to not do that. But on a global level, where our businesses are stocked by international companies, I understand that this is impossible to do. But folks, since all of our money belongs to the bank anyway, I've said this 1,000 times, then we don't have a choice. So, folks, thank you so much for listening to the Region 10 report. I am absolutely grateful for everybody who called today, and I just can't thank you enough. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. And new articles are posted daily on my website. You can catch me on the Pete Santilli Show Monday through Friday on American Freedom Radio. And we also feature No Messiah and Blue X Baxter as our lead-in and lead-out music, and those guys are wonderful. We have links to the radio.occupycorporatism.com. If you go there, we have links to their music. You should go check them out. And folks, just please be careful. Be careful about who you stand next to. Be careful about who you stand with.
Are you tired of going to the same news websites and sharing stories with your friends only to find out later that it was a propaganda piece or something from a disinformation network? Have you been to occupycorporatism.com? Occupy Corporatism is one of the very few independent news sources that certifies their information and provides all of the source documents, so you can be sure that what you're reading is the real thing and not just an opinion piece by the controlled alternative and mainstream media. We offer 100% original articles and a troll-free atmosphere, so you can feel comfortable knowing that time you spend with us will be time well spent researching facts and avoiding trolls. Come by Occupy Corporatism 24 hours a day to get the latest news and the facts that other media outlets just refuse to cover. That's occupycorporatism.com. You can also visit radio.occupycorporatism.com to listen to all of our episodes of the Region 10 Report with Susanne Posel, the chief editor and investigative journalist of Occupy Corporatism. Don't forget to visit Occupy Corporatism on Facebook to leave your comments, suggest news stories, or leave us a news tip. We appreciate all of our loyal listeners and readers. We've reached over 2 million smart people just like you. So come by occupycorporatism.com and get the real truth behind the news. Leave the propaganda behind.
The brink. We are on the brink, but of what? No one knows. It depends on the reference frame that you're looking at it from. On the Brink with Jeff Weverson.
We have been nuked. Did you know that? Check out Nuked Radio on ucy.tv Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Radchick and Jules. Stay safe, everyone.
ucy.tv. The future is in your hands.
I'm Brandon Turbeville, staff writer for ActivistPost.com. You can catch Truth on the Tracks every Monday night at 9 p.m. and Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on ucy.tv.
I'm Madison Rupert, the host of End the Lie Radio here on ucy.tv every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern. Tune in every Monday here on ucy.tv.
You're listening to ucy.tv. Real news, real people.